Hello everybody and welcome back to iCommand. This is TV Boy and it's Friday and I thought, you know what, it would be fun to start doing a campaign video on Fridays. Maybe not every Friday, but I'm going to try and do it in the future. And don't worry, we will definitely be doing more Let's Play of the single player campaign through Imperial Commander 2 app. But I'm taking a little break from that. I feel like I get very involved when I start doing one of those campaigns. It starts to take up a lot of my mental space, and I'm having fun playing skirmish right now with the new ICP cards. Also, kind of want to focus on some other stuff. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to be starting that soon enough. But for now, I'm going to be doing a couple more little campaign videos like this one. And this is actually a series I do want to continue doing, where I take a look at a more niche, maybe off-kilter item in the campaign and analyze where it is best to use such item. There's obviously there's items and weapons for rebels and Empire too that are just generally good, and you should pretty much always grab them when you can. Stuff like the the tactical display, the balanced hilt, your A280s, DL44, things like that. But there's sometimes these little bit off weird items that you're like, are these good? I can't really tell. And they're really good in certain situations. So I want to go on and go over this. And the first one we're going to be talking about for this video is the DDC Defender, which is a Tier 1 item released in the Return to Hoth expansion. And this is a pistol. It is a green-yellow attack. It has Surge for +1 damage, Surge for +1 accuracy, and Weaken. It has one attachment slot. It costs 550 credits, and it has a unique ability amongst weapons in the game. For 2 actions, you get a special action that says perform 3 attacks with this weapon, and those are back to back. You don't get to interrupt to spend movement points, or do things that you could normally only do when you're not resolving an action. So those are 3 attacks back to back. And this weapon, first of all, some lore. The DDC Defender, the DDC stands for Drurian Defense Conglomerate, according to the Wikipedia article for this weapon. And interestingly enough, first appeared in the very first scene of the very first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, wielded by Leia on the Tantive 4. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But moving on to the gameplay aspects, let's talk about some interesting ways you can use this weapon and where it works best. So first of all, let's talk about some general attachments that this works well with. So the DDC Defender is at its best when you're using it with abilities that trigger off of each attack, and you don't have to exhaust or deplete them to use the ability. Because obviously if you have to exhaust to use an attack modifier, then you're not going to get it on that third and second attack, and so the third attack is not giving you any extra value. But when you have items or abilities that are triggering off of every attack you make and giving you value for every attack you make, then the third attack that you get from this weapon can become what's called a force multiplier, which is, as it sounds, you're taking force and you're multiplying it more than you normally would get to, since normally you're only making about 2 attacks each activation with your Rebel Heroes maximum. So looking at some cool items you can combine it with, from the Return to Hoth expansion, we've got the Tier 1 item. And by the way, you'll notice this black background is in Vassal. I'm looking at these cards in Vassal, and I'm quite excited. I was able to dig into the guts of the campaign module for Vassal, and I've been messing around with it to make it, it's going to look a lot better in my next campaign Let's Play with Vassal than it has in the past, so I'm quite excited about that. But moving on, the Underbarrel HH4 can be a nice attachment to add on to the DDC Defender. For one, it gives you an 8 + 1 accuracy boost to all your attacks, which is really nice because the DDC Defender doesn't have really great accuracy. Green-yellow means you are rolling Minimum 1 accuracy. You can go right. You can roll as low as 1, and you do have a surge for +1 accuracy. So generally, you can attack out to range 2 safely. But that's also just not great, especially if you're trying to perform multiple attacks and defeat multiple figures. Uh, so the +1 accuracy bonus is really nice, but more importantly, you get a surge for Blast 1, and Blast 1 is a very powerful ability to multiply by more attacks, as we will see soon. You also have the Marksman Barrel from the core set. This just gives you a +2 accuracy boost. In my opinion, not quite as good as the Blast 1 that you get from the Underbarrel, but still the +2 accuracy is welcome to this weapon to help you get a better minimum accuracy range. Next, we've got a Tier 2 from the Twin Shadows campaign item is the Plasma Cell, an energy attachment that gives all of your attacks Pierce 1, as well as another Surge for +1 damage bonus. So again, this is that multiplier where normally you would get about 2 extra damage out of the Plasma Cell when you're attacking twice in an activation. With the DDC Defender, you're getting an extra damage out of it, basically. As long as that third pierce is piercing a block, it's going to multiply the value that you're getting, that you're generating from this attachment. And then finally, we've got Tier 3 Disruption Cell for 600 credits. Gives you, again, a +2 accuracy bonus, which is, as we discussed, quite useful. But it also says when you declare an attack, and you don't have to exhaust to do it, replace 1 die in your attack pool with a red die. So this is also great with the DDC, as the green-yellow is not great, and if you can, especially since you don't have great surges, so if you roll 2 or 3 surges on your attack dice, you're pretty unhappy. So you can easily replace the yellow die with a red die. You'll get much better damage output. You don't really lose that much accuracy. In fact, the yellow die doesn't have great accuracy rolls. I believe it actually has 2 faces with 0 accuracy. And then the +2 accuracy on the Disruption Cell itself makes up for that. So you'll actually probably be rolling better accuracy by swapping out the yellow for a red, and then of course getting better damage. And like I said, 3 attacks, you're getting extra 3 attacks value worth, or 3 attacks worth of value from this attachment, though it is a bit pricey at 600 credits. So next, let's talk about the heroes that work really well with the DDC Defender. I'm going to start off with the best heroes to use with it, and then I'm going to go kind of down the list as we go, rather than going by release order. So the last hero I talk about is probably going to be the least valuable, but it's going to go from best to worst. So scrolling down, we've got Fen Cygnus, one of the most powerful heroes in the game, in my opinion, from the core set. And the reason that he is really good with the DDC Defender is actually multiple reasons. Number 1, tactical movement. Fantastic ability. The problem with the DDC Defender is you can't use any of your actions to take a move action. And so you're going to be relying on strain movement a lot if you're using the DDC Defender to get into position to get the line of sight and the range that you need. And with Fen, he has tactical movement, which just gives you 2 movement points for free. You don't have to spend an action to get those 2 movement points. And in addition to that, Lone Wolf means he's going to be recovering strain, so he can use strain movement plus the tactical movement to be basically getting 4 actions per turn with this weapon. Right, he's getting moves worth of movement points plus 3 attacks. And then the other thing that makes him so good with the DDC Defender is the thing that's multiplying here is Havoc Shot. He can use Havoc Shot as many times as he wants during his activation per attack. So every extra attack you give Fen is another chance for him to use Havoc Shot to apply Blast 1 to his attacks. And he doesn't need to roll a surge or anything. All he has to do is spend a strain. So as long as you're managing his strain and he's recovering strain with Lone Wolf, you're going to be getting lots of blast damage off. And blast is really powerful in campaign because the Imperial player is restricted to where they can deploy their figures during deployments, and they often have to clump up if they want to deploy their figures anywhere near where the objectives are and the action is happening. It can be very oppressive to the Imperial player, as clumping up as they normally would with lots of figures can be absolutely wiped out by multiple instances of blast. And by the way, Fen can also increase that blast from blast 1 to blast 2 on all of his attacks with the 4xp card Rebel Elite. So with DDC Defender, Havoc Shot, and Rebel Elite, you can do up to blast 6, which is just insane. You're killing elite stormtroopers with that damage. You're killing Trandoshan hunters with that kind of damage. The only thing that doesn't die to blast 6 is like Imperial Royal Guards and sentry droids, and even those are going to be left crippled. They're just going to die to a stiff breeze from any of your other heroes or allies after that. And then finally, he's got great abilities that can help modify the DDC Defender's poor damage output. Because the problem with Blast is you do have to deal damage to the target, so if you roll badly with the DDC Defender, with Fen, you might lose out on that blast on one of your attacks. But he doesn't have to worry about that because he's got both Trench Fighter, which, again, these are exhausts. Well, Trench Fighter is an exhaust that can let him add +2 damage to the attack results, so he can force that damage through on the target and be able to trigger Blast. And he also has Weapon Expert, which for one strain lets him apply Pierce 1 and +2 accuracy. As we mentioned, the accuracy bonus is really good on the DDC Defender, but also the Pierce 1 can help him get that 1 damage through he needs to trigger that Blast 2. It does cost a strain, so you have to be careful with the strain cost on Havoc Shot, plus if you had to take any strain movement on top of tactical movement. But Fen is just built to use DDC Defender and abuse it, and he is borderline broken, honestly, with DDC Defender and Rebel Elite. He is very oppressive to what the Imperial player can do on their side of the mission. So moving on to our next one is going to be the next one that I think is second best with the DDC Defender is Vinto. So Vinto benefits from the DDC Defender because of Bolt Slinger. So every time Vinto attacks, as long as he deals damage to the target, he gets to deal 1 extra damage to any other hostile figure in line of sight and within 3 spaces. So you're getting that extra damage from Bolt Slinger by doing 3 attacks with DDC Defender. He's also got some nice abilities that work well with it. Pinpoint Shot, while it is an exhaust, really helps with that low damage output on the DDC Defender, making sure that you are going to be guaranteed at least for one of your attacks to deal damage to the target, which therefore allows you to trigger Bolt Slinger. He also has some really good abilities in Sharpshooter, which gives you +1 accuracy on your attacks. So again, we mentioned why accuracy is really good on the DDC Defender. It does need a little bit of accuracy boost to help it out. And then he's got Rapid Fire, which in addition to dealing 1 damage to each hostile figure within 3 to 4 spaces, depending on if you have Sharpshooter, just to exhaust the ability, he gives all of your attacks a reroll, in fact a full reroll, and you reroll the defense dice too. So if you roll badly with the Defender when you attack with it, you just re-roll it and re-roll the opponent's defense dice. It's like you get to redo the attack, and you can do that on all 3 of your Defender attacks. So some great value there with Rapid Fire and Sharpshooter and Bolt Slinger. He's also, I didn't list it here, but he's got some abilities that let him add damage to the results, so to also push damage through again on the target. So basically he is going to be a very strong, much like Fen is, a very strong spread attacker. He's going to be dealing lots of damage in small increments over the 3 attacks through Bolt Slinger, through Rapid Fire, through all that other stuff. And he can often deal a lot of damage to leave all the Imperial figures on very low health, or he can clean up a lot of figures that may have taken damage earlier in the round, and it makes him quite good with it. So next up, we're going to be talking about our next hero, which will be Loku. I like Loku with the DDC Defender. It may seem like an odd one at first, but the reason I like Loku with the DDC Defender is because he has a passive attack boost that will trigger on every attack as long as you're attacking a figure that has a recon token on it. He gets +1 damage to his attack. He gives it to other friendly figures as well, but it applies to his attacks as well. So He also gets a +2 accuracy bonus from his Clear-Minded ability, which is fantastic. Again, we talked about accuracy bonuses on the DDC Defender is really appreciated. So if you use Loku, you set your sights, you put a recon token on something, then you can attack it 3 times. You're getting effectively +3 damage from that recon token if it eats all 3 attacks. Now the issue is that if you end up killing that thing before you finish your 3 attacks, you're not going to get the bonus on your 3rd attack, at least not the damage bonus. So that's why I've listed that you really want to include his upgrades that let him either spread recon tokens around, so that once you kill that one figure and you still have a 2nd or 3rd attack, you'll get to benefit from a recon token still. Or like his battle vision allows him to apply the +1 damage bonus to a figure that's adjacent to a figure with a recon token. Spectrum Scanner lets him exhaust the card when he defeats a figure with a recon token to put the recon token on another figure in the same group. So if they've got stormtroopers or whatever, 2 Trandoshan hunters, you kill one of them, you've still got your attacks left to do. You want to finish up your attacks, and then you can do the other one. I didn't list it here, but he also has a 1 XP card that lets him ignore other figures for line of sight when he's attacking something with a recon token. So that is also going to be very useful, because it means it's going to reduce the amount of movement he's going to need to get line of sight if there's a figure blocking his target. So that's going to be really nice. So our last one I'm going to talk about, well, the last one I think is good with the DDC Defender is going to be Jin Odon. And I think she is the last on my list because the main reason I have her included here is her Sidewinder ability, which is 4 XP, and after resolving an attack, she may move up to 2 spaces, in addition to her Opportunist, which says after she resolves an attack, if the target suffered 1 or more damage, she can move 1 space. So with the DDC Defender, what she can do, because these are not movement points, she gets to move. She actually gets to move between each of the attacks, which is really nice. So what she can do is she'll start her activation, use the DDC Defender to perform an attack. After the attack resolves, but before she starts performing the next attack, she can move 2 spaces with Sidewinder plus 1 space with Opportunist. So she's actually moving 3 spaces before she makes the second attack, and that's again because these are not movement points. They're not being banked on her. She has to actually move the spaces to use these abilities, and that interrupts the attack chain. So then she can attack again, and then again she'll trigger Sidewinder or Opportunist. She'll move 3 spaces, and then she can attack a 3rd time, and then again she gets to move 3 spaces. So she can actually move 9 spaces and attack 3 times, which is kind of insane actually. But she doesn't have a whole lot of ways to modify the attacks themselves, so the attacks are going to be quite bad with her. She does have one ability that I didn't list here, which was her gunslinger ability, and since the DDC Defender is a pistol, she can give it much better surge abilities, like if she has the DL-44. The gunslinger ability allows her to use other pistols' surge abilities while attacking with a pistol. So if you have like the DL-44, it can do surge for +2 accuracy and +1 damage, as well as a surge for +2 damage, which helps a lot, but it doesn't. It's still not great. It's still like kind of a tier 1 weapon, right? Because if you think about it, like that's just a DL-44 with a green and yellow dice pool instead of a blue and yellow, which is like okay. So yeah, none of her abilities other than the gunslinger really help boost the damage output the way that Fen and Vinto and Loku do. So you're getting a lot of movement, you're getting some attacks which might deal a little bit of damage, but you're not doing a ton of damage, which is I have her last on the list for synergy. And then before we end this, I did want to talk about 2 heroes that I'm sure some people might bring up as being good with the DDC Defender or thinking it works well with it, but I actually would disagree, and I actually think these heroes, you would probably want to avoid using the DDC Defender with them. At least I would personally. And that's going to be Verina, Talos, and Onar Coma. And I have them flipped to their weakened side here, just to indicate that I don't think they're good with the Defender. The reason you might think they're good is because Verina has an ability, point blank shot, and when you declare an attack with a pistol targeting an adjacent figure, you can replace one die in the attack pool with a red die, and you apply Pierce 1 to the attack results. That sounds really good, and especially when you realize it doesn't exhaust, so you could do that on all three of your DDC Defender attacks, which seems really good. The problem with that is that you have to be adjacent, and you cannot use a move action to get adjacent to something, right? Because then you won't be able to spend the two actions to trigger the three attacks. So you're going to have to use strain move to do that. You're going to spend strain on doing that. And Verina's abilities are really strain intensive. Close quarters, her main ability that gives her extra attacks, costs 2 strain. And you want to be using that multiple times. She's also got combat momentum, which can help with getting the point blank shot, but that one also costs strain to use it. Although the part that you would be using to move between the DDC Defender doesn't cost strain. So it can be good. It's just if the Imperial player keeps their distance from Verina, then it can be hard for her to manage the action economy needed to make that combo work. Like, it'll work on turn 1 usually, because normally they've got figures deployed within 2 spaces of Verina, so Verina can strain move 2, and then start hitting people with point blank shots, close quarters. But then after that, you're gonna have a hard time getting that pulled off against a competent Imperial player. And then Onar, you might think that he has some potential with it, because he's got a couple abilities that let him repeatedly modify his attacks. Mutual Destruction lets you suffer damage to apply +1 damage to the attack results. You can do that for all 3 attacks. And then his 4 XP ability, Don't Make Me Hurt You, lets you exhaust to add a red die to the attack pool. But you can ready it by suffering a damage when the target is defeated. So you could, theoretically, if you kill a figure with Don't Make Me Hurt You, for each DDC attack you make, you could use that on every attack and have it be red, green, yellow. It's pretty strong. The only problem is when you're using it like this is he takes so much damage so fast if you're doing that, right? You're gonna take 3 damage a round from Mutual Destruction. Similarly, you're gonna take 2 damage a round from Don't Make Me Hurt You. Like, yeah, you're going to do a ton of damage, but you're going to be wounded really quickly. So I guess if you don't mind getting wounded pretty fast with Onar, because the Imperial player is going to be focusing Onar down for sure if he's doing this, right? If he's taking 5 damage every time he activates, the Imperial, with no defense dice, the Imperial player is just going to lay into him, and he's going to get wounded almost immediately, which means he's going to lose access to... oh, interesting, he can actually rest twice. Oh, but he will be able to take harmful conditions, and that will be really bad if he can... So that's actually something that is good with Onar, is that he can't take harmful conditions. Because stun can really mess up your DDC Defender. So the fact that he can't be stunned while he's healthy is nice, but he loses that when he's wounded. So I'm not sure about these. I can see that they have potential with the DDC Defender for sure, but I certainly see the drawbacks are quite strong that you might not foresee when you first decide you want to pick up the weapon and try it out with them. But if you think it's good, let me know in the comments with these figures, or let me know the experiences you've had with the DDC Defender in your campaigns, or if you've had a hero that you've played or you've seen that you think would be good with it. And let me know if you like this kind of content. Also, let me know what items you might think I might talk about in future videos. I've got an idea for a couple more, but it's always fun to hear folks' feedback on what they'd like to see. Thanks everybody for watching and enjoying the video. We'll see you next time.